Hi, this is Craig Lane with Video Blog Week 51. Seeing ourselves from the inside out and the outside in. Sort of a Christmas present from me and Health Alchemy to all of you. You're sitting in Portland, much colder than my native Santa Cruz environment, and been reading Carl Jung's autobiography and reflecting on some of the things that, objective versus subjective reality, and he believed that, according to the words in the book, that we cannot find an objective reality. We all have an inner subjective reality, and in that, my experience of my own power has been found in seeing myself through my own eyes versus how others see me. And maybe we can really relate to, if we say something or we're thinking about saying something, and then we might say to ourselves, what would so-and-so say? Or how would so-and-so react? And, there's something about how others react, affect our decisions, affect our path, and that can affect our health, because we're always sort of walking on eggshells about, in my life, I walk on eggshells around the government and the powers that be. If I say the wrong thing, I might be labeled a terrorist, which some of the things I say I probably could be, but I'm just not big enough really to catch the eye of those powers, fortunately for me. And so when we come from our own power, seeing our life from the inside out, then there's a chance we might be a bit more reckless in the eyes of others. There's a chance we might be a bit more judged. There's a chance we might be judged great, too. And so in this short offering, what I really want to offer is, how do things feel when I'm thinking? Like, how do those thoughts feel? And if they're coming from a place of, like, this feels like flow, this feels like alignment, this feels like what I want to offer my own self, and what falls in place around that, then the consequences of one's decisions to take action aren't necessarily going to generate a trace inside. There's a Taoist saying, enlightened action leaves no trace. And I don't believe that's about karma in the outside world. I believe it's about what recycles inside us. And my experience has shown me so that when I don't take action on something, whether it's asking for emotional support or saying something to a partner or a friend or a relationship that is one of my deepest inner truths about, hey, I need support here, or I need this from you, then a lot of the chances are that I'm going to recycle that in the form of doubt or regret or disappointment, and all those are in myself, and everything I see around me is just a judgment and a reflection of that. So then we could see it from the outside in, we could walk around, like I said earlier, tiptoeing on eggshells around, gee, what would happen if I did that? And would someone be hurt? Or would I be labeled as this or that? I know in my own life, I spent a lot of my early life, especially trying to find a partner, trying to find women, that I wasn't myself, and I became what they wanted me to be. And I don't know, with one woman I found that she was very codependent, and in the end, we were engaged to be married, and in the end I had to leave because her codependency didn't lead me to what I wanted from the inside out. I wanted to feel like I didn't have to tend to another's happiness or another's needs, that I could stay in my own truth and my own power, and she would be in hers, and we would meet. And Khalil Gibran's helped me with that. If the soul of one can never really merge with the soul of another, they're sort of like oceans that wash in and out of each other. And there are times when the tide is in and we're merged and we feel so great. And there are times when the tide is out. And when the tide's out, maybe we can all relate to this in relationship. It feels so pretty when we feel apart from our partner. But if we turn back to how we see our life from the inside out, then we find our own self-love and our own salvation. And then we end up seeing the cyclical nature of life and relationship. And we see that as long as we see ourselves through the eyes of inside out. In other words, I'm looking at you instead of determining how you might feel by my words. They're inconsequential in a way, and I believe there are people that, we all have sort of a destiny, and that might be the river of life that we find ourselves in, but we also have, it's a both and thing, we also have free will. We're not fated to follow the destiny as it, I believe we're all fated to follow what destiny is in our internal world, but how it looks in the external world is sort of how we row the boat down the river. Sure, we can choose to pull the boat over and pitch a tent and take a position for a while, but then I think the flood comes and washes us back in the river, whether we like it or not. Or we can choose to steer, we might find a fork in the road, I can go left or right, but inevitably those two tracks inevitably come together. I think that's where Don Juan and Carlos Castaneda's conversation around, all of life's a circle, and the only path that matters is a path with heart. So that's a burning question, is our path a path with heart? Because even though the river diverges at some point, the tracks of the river come back together again in the future. And again, in our inner world, how we mark our outer world is, of course, our own sort of, in the canvas of our life. We can paint that canvas any way we want, but our inner world is not going to change. And I have a story about a friend that I was in a triangle of a love relationship with a woman, and he found out getting himself hurt in that triangle, and I warned him so, and he ended up going to Costa Rica to, as I have done many times, to run away from his problems in the situation. But what he found was a number of days and potentially weeks of rain, and was forced to stay in his own little world, and he couldn't avoid himself, and he couldn't avoid the pain he was feeling. And I don't know how many times I've done that in my own life, that I tried to run away from something. Running away was a great part of my past, and then ended up coming right back to myself, which I can't run from. And so by dealing with it and dealing with our life from the inside out, then one potentially has a chance to more quickly digest their material. And those who know me in my inner circle know that I'm really a big fan of digestion on all levels. Digestion in the physical, digestion in the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And I really just want to wish you all, this is week 51, I have one more week of my video blogs this year, and wish you all a happy new year. And this is really, for me, December 20th, 21st to the 25th is really when the new year is, and then our external Gregorian New Year is sort of, because of the nature of the matrix I find myself in, it's a great time to celebrate, but I wouldn't necessarily term it in my inner world a time that I would choose to celebrate the new year. I kind of agree with the mystics and the pagans and the old traditions, the old tribal traditions, when the longest day of the year and there's the shortest day of the year, and this is the shortest day of the year that just happened. Now we're sort of coming out of the light starting to increase a bit. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and this is Craig Lane with Health Alchemy Video Blog Week 51. Next and last week will be sort of a sneak preview of 2014 for Health Alchemy, and some wonderful previews. Namaste.